You did something wrong. That's the first thing most owners think when their hamster suddenly starts hiding, stops coming out, refuses to interact. They replay everything. Did I handle them too rough? Did I change something in the cage? Are they sick? Are they dying? Are they afraid of me now? And then, because no obvious answer appears, most owners land on the worst possible conclusion. My hamster doesn't like me anymore. So they back off. They stop trying. They give the hamster space and hope things go back to normal on their own. That decision, that well-meaning, loving decision to back off and wait, is often the thing that makes the problem permanent. Here's what's actually happening when your hamster hides from you. It's not rejection. It's not illness in most cases. It's not even really about you at all. It's about something going on inside your hamster's brain and body that has a very specific cause, a very specific solution, and a window, a real measurable window, in which that solution actually works. By the end of this video, you'll understand your hamster in a way that almost no pet owner does. And that understanding changes everything. Researchers at the University of Bern studying stress responses in captive small mammals found that owner behavior in the first 2 weeks of a hamster's hiding episode determines the long-term outcome in the majority of cases. 2 weeks. That's how tight the window is. Let's go through exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and what to do about it. Starting with a reason almost nobody talks about. The first thing to understand is that hiding is not a behavior. It's a symptom. When a hamster retreats, disappears into their house, stops coming to the front of the cage, refuses treats they used to take eagerly, that's not a decision they're making. It's a response being generated by their stress system. Specifically, it's being driven by elevated cortisol, the primary stress hormone in Syrian hamsters, which triggers an ancient hardwired behavioral program. Become invisible, don't move, don't draw attention. This is the same neurological system that kept their wild ancestors alive in the deserts of Syria, where anything that noticed you probably wanted to eat you. The problem is that in a domestic cage, this system gets triggered by things that are completely harmless. A new smell in the room, a change in routine, a loud noise that happened once near the cage, a new piece of furniture that shifted the way light falls across the cage at a particular time of day. The hamster's threat detection system doesn't distinguish between a predator and a moved bookshelf. It just detects change, flags it as potential danger, and executes the hide protocol. And that protocol can stay active for days or weeks if the perceived threat isn't resolved. The second cause is one that owners almost never identify because it's invisible. The wrong light cycle. Syrian hamsters are crepuscular and nocturnal, calibrated to emerge at dusk and move through darkness. Their internal clock, their circadian rhythm, is set by light. When a cage is positioned in a room with artificial light that stays on late into the night, or worse, in a room with inconsistent light patterns, the hamster's biological clock becomes dysregulated. A dysregulated circadian rhythm in a hamster doesn't just affect their sleep. It affects their cortisol baseline. A 2020 paper from the Journal of Experimental Biology studying light cycle disruption in nocturnal rodents found that irregular light exposure elevated baseline cortisol by up to 35% and significantly increased hiding and avoidance behaviors. Your hamster may be hiding from you not because of anything you did during interaction, but because the light in their room is preventing their stress system from ever fully resetting. They're waking up into a state of chronic low-level alarm. And from that state, hiding is the only rational response. The fix is simple but non-negotiable. Consistent, predictable light-dark cycles. Lights on in the morning, lights off by 9 p.m. at the latest. No screen light from televisions or phones flooding the cage after dark. Blackout curtains if the room gets street light. Give their circadian rhythm something it can set itself to, and the baseline cortisol drops. When baseline cortisol drops, hiding retreats with it. The third cause is about trust, and specifically about how trust gets broken without anyone doing anything wrong. Hamsters build trust through repetition. Every predictable interaction, a hand appearing at the same time, food arriving consistently, smells staying familiar, builds a neurological record that says, this pattern is safe. This is not a threat. I don't need to hide. But trust in hamsters is not symmetrical. It builds slowly and it breaks fast. A single bad experience, being startled, dropped, grabbed unexpectedly, exposed to a new pet smell on your hands, handled when unwell, can reset months of trust building to near zero. If your hamster started hiding after a specific event, even one you might consider minor, that event almost certainly registered as threatening in their nervous system and triggered a trust reset. This is not a permanent state. It is recoverable. But recovery requires going back to the beginning, not continuing from where you left off. This means restarting the taming process from step 1. Hand presence without touching. Then hand presence with a treat placed on the edge of the palm. Then waiting, not reaching, for the hamster to come to you. Every session short. Every session ending before the hamster shows any sign of stress. Building a new record of safe patterns to replace the one that got broken. This is where most owners go wrong. They try to fast forward. They think if they just persist, push through, keep offering their hand, the hamster will eventually give in. But pushing past a hamster's comfort threshold doesn't build trust. It actively erodes it. Every forced interaction adds another data point to the threat record. The hiding gets worse. The window closes. If you're finding this useful, if this is changing the way you understand what's happening in that little cage, this is exactly the kind of content we make here every single week. Subscribe and you'll never have to wonder what your hamster is actually thinking again. The 4th cause is one that requires a vet, not a behavioral adjustment, and it's important to know the difference. Some hiding behavior is caused by physical pain or illness. A hamster with dental problems, an internal tumor, a respiratory infection, or the early stages of wet tail will retreat and hide as a direct pain response, the same way a sick wild animal hides to avoid appearing vulnerable. The distinguishing factor is whether the hiding is accompanied by other physical signs. Reduced or absent will activity. Changes in droppings. Weight loss. Coat degradation. Reduced eating or drinking. If you're seeing hiding alongside any of these, the cause is likely physical rather than behavioral, and the solution is a veterinary examination, not a taming protocol. The critical mistake is assuming all hiding is behavioral and waiting it out when what the hamster actually needs is medical attention. If your hamster has been hiding for more than 5 days with no improvement, or if any physical symptoms are present, see a vet. The cost of a consultation is always lower than the cost of waiting too long. The 5th and final cause is the one that cuts deepest when owners finally understand it, because it reframes the entire relationship. Your hamster may be hiding from you because the cage itself never felt safe enough to come out of. Not because anything changed. Not because of a single event. But because the enclosure is missing the structural conditions that make a hamster feel secure enough to be visible in the first place. Specifically, deep enough bedding to fully disappear into, a solid walled hide rather than an open one, enough space to have a territory with distinct zones, and a location in the room that isn't exposed to constant visual traffic and movement. A hamster in a cage placed on a busy desk, or in a high-traffic hallway, or in a room where people walk past frequently, is a hamster living in a state of constant perceived exposure. Every person who walks past is a potential threat passing through their territory. The rational response, from their nervous system's perspective, is to stay hidden permanently. Cage placement matters more than almost any other environmental factor. Against a wall. In a quieter part of the room. With the hide positioned so the hamster's sleeping area is not directly visible from the main human traffic zone. These adjustments don't require a new cage. They require 15 minutes of rearrangement and an understanding of what safety looks like to an animal with a prey animal's nervous system. 5 causes. Wrong light cycle. A broken trust from a single event. Chronic environmental exposure. Underlying illness. And a cage that never felt safe enough to come out of. Most hiding behavior has a solution. Most hiding hamsters can come back, can return to the curious, interactive, front-of-cage animal they were before, or become one for the first time if they never really were. But the solution has to match the actual cause. And the window for most behavioral causes is shorter than owners realize. Look at your hamster tonight. Not to touch, not to interact. Just look. Watch where they position themselves when they think no one is watching. Watch whether they come out at all, and if so, when and why. Watch their body when they do emerge. Relaxed and fluid, or tense and low to the ground. They're telling you something with every movement and every absence of movement. You know what to listen for now. That's the difference between an owner and someone who truly understands their animal. Your hamster got the second kind today.